This is for educational use only. Our group grants permission for our instructor, Mr. Roldan Ardines, to use this as educational material. Today, we will discuss the self from psychological perspectives. Our goal is to understand how psychologists explains the self, how we build our identity, and how our real and ideal selves affect our behavior and decisions. By the end of this presentation, you should be able to explain William James's theory of the self, compare the global and differentiated models, and distinguish between the real self and ideal self. Understanding the self is very important because it helps us improve our confidence, relationships, and life choices. For example, when we understand our strengths, we become more confident. When we understand our weaknesses, we know what to improve. And when we know who we truly are, we make better decisions for our future. So today, let's explore how psychology helps us to understand ourselves better.
So let's start with William James. Does anyone know who actually William James is? He's an American philosopher and psychologist, or also known as the father of American psychology. And he's one of the psychologists who study the self, where he conceptualized the self as having two aspects, the I and the me. The me self is the empirical self or self concept, which is the sum total of a person who can call their own and is considered a cognitive construction built from personal experiences and social interaction. You see that the self is not just one thing. Instead, it has two parts, the I and the me. First is the I, which is the thinker, or the one who experiences life. It is part of you that thinks, feels, makes decisions. Second is the me, which is everything we know about ourselves, our traits, rules, memories. So when you say, I am a hardworking person, I am shy type person, or I am a best MT student, you are simply describing your me self. James believed that our identity is formed by how we think and how we interpret our experiences. For example, I am responsible older brother. If I'm responsible enough, I will naturally act more responsible at home. If someone believes I am bad at speaking, they might avoid reporting in class, so our thoughts about ourselves influence our behaviors.
Now let's focus more on the me self. William James divided it into three parts. First is the material self. This includes our body and possessions. These are things we consider mine, like our clothes, phone, house, or even hairstyle. For example, many students feel confident when wearing nice clothes or using a new phone. Second is social self, how other people see us. We behave differently depending on who we are with. For example, with friends, we are funny. With teachers, we are respectful. With family, we are more open. Third is the spiritual self, our values, beliefs, personality, and morals. This is our inner self. For example, being kind, religious, or hardworking reflects our spiritual self. All these parts combine to shape of our identity.
Next, we discuss the global model of self. This model says the self is one of overall evaluation of yourself. It focuses on general self-esteem instead of separating abilities. You judge yourself as one whole person. For example, you might simply say, I feel good about myself or I am not good enough. It is simple and easy to understand, however, can sometimes be too general. For example, if someone fails one subject, they might simply think I'm a failure because they judge themselves as one whole person. One mistake affects their entire self-worth, so this model can sometimes lower confidence.
Differentiated model in contrast, the differentiated model says the self has many parts instead of one general judgment. We evaluate ourselves in different areas like academic, sports, talent, relationship, personality. This model is more realistic because people have different strengths and weaknesses. For instance, I'm weak in math but good in communication. I'm not athletic but I'm creative. I may fail one subject but I'm still a good leader. Because of this, failing is one area doesn't destroy your entire confidence. This model helps protect self-esteem and encourages improvements, so unlike the global model, this one gives a more balanced view of the self. Thank you.
Now, let's talk about the real self. The real self is who you are truly right now. It includes your actual strengths, weaknesses, habits, and behaviors. It's based on reality, not imagination. Being aware of your real self helps you grow. For example, I procrastinate sometimes, but I am hardworking when motivated. I am friendly, but I get nervous speaking in public. I study hard, but I get easily distracted by my phone. Accepting these truths helps us improve. Because if we don't recognize our weaknesses, we can not change them. Self-awareness is the first step to improve. Ideal self. The ideal self is who you aspire to be. It's your vision of your best self, including your goals and standards. Having this ideal motivates you to work towards it. But here's the thing. If the gap between your real self and the ideal self is too huge, it can lead to stress and feeling like you're failing. But if your goals are realistic and achievable, you feel motivated to take small steps forward, and all about progress, not perfection.
By the way, this is still the ideal self. I just want to clear things up. The ideal self is who you want to become. It includes your dreams, goals, and standards. For example, I want to be confident. I want to be successful. I want to be disciplined. Or I want to be financially stable. I want to graduate, help my family, and have a good career. This image motivates us to work harder. But there is something important. If the gap between your real self and ideal self is too big, you may feel stress, low self-esteem, disappointment. For example, expecting perfect grades all the time may make you feel a failure when you make one mistake. However, if the gap is small and realistic, you feel motivated. For example, I will improve one subject at a time. I will practice speaking little by little. These small goals create progress, so the goal is not perfection, it is grow. In summary, psychology shows us that the self can be understood in many different ways. William James explains the thinking self. The global and differentiated models explains how we evaluate ourselves, and the real and ideal selves explains who we are now and who we want to become. While some perspectives view the self as one whole, others see it as many parts. These differences helps us better understand our identity. Personally, I realize that my real self is sometimes shy, but my ideal self is confident. So I practice speaking more often to improve. This shows that understanding the self helps us grow. Because in the end, the goal is not perfection, but becoming better every day. Before we end, let us remember that understanding the self is not only school or psychology class. We use this knowledge in our everyday lives. When we understand our strengths, we become more confident. When we accept our weakness, we learn how to improve. And when we set realistic goals, we grow step by step. As students and future professionals, knowing ourselves help us make better decisions and build a better future. Because the better we understand ourselves, the better we can understand others. Thank you for watching.